What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the week 4 episode of We Live for Saturdays. We're joined here by Maku, and Chris is back from his international travels. How you boys doing?
Welcome back, Toph.
I'm doing great. It was a great time. Um, Really cool adventure out in Portugal. Saw a lot of cool stuff. Ate a lot of good food, and followed college football as best we could. But another great weekend this past weekend.
Were you able to watch any games out there? I know one of those days you traveled on a Saturday,
That
right?
was the travel day, which you guys hit on last week's episode. But I vividly remember watching Northern Illinois take down Notre Dame at our gate while we were in a long layover. So, I was still plugged in as best I can. But yeah, now back in the States, able to prepare. We watched, we were home this past weekend, so we were able to soak in some games and watch that, and ready for another good week here.
Love
Let's
it.
go.
Love it. Maku, what'd you get up to? I know we're domestic, but anything going on in your world before we hop on in?
I celebrated the big 3-3 on Friday the 13th, so had a nice little birthday celebration with the wife and then some friends and family on the weekend. So I was also a little bit more on the road than I would have liked to have been for both college and NFL slate, but hey, that's the whole name of the game. It's keeping up with what's going on around the college football landscape.
Exactly. And speaking of which, heck of a week 3. I know on the episode last week, Maku, we were sort of down on the slate, but college football never disappoints. There's really never a bad week of college football. Some of the games were fun to watch, some not as much. Couple games, Maku, that stuck out to you last week. I know we have a couple in mind here.
I mean, I know the biggest one, and to your point, college football never lets you down unless you place money on significant wagers, because Kentucky and Georgia both let me down. I had Georgia in a couple teasers, getting them only needed to win by 2 touchdowns. You'd think the number 1 team in the country could handle that pretty easily without much of an issue, but they I don't know, sleptwalked through the entirety of that game. Beat Kentucky 13-12, which is a gross score no matter who's playing in the game. So I do not know what happened there. I'm still searching for answers. I think it was more Georgia playing very low to the level of their opponent, and Kentucky just getting a lot of breaks. But their box score was literally 3-3, 3-3, just a field goal every quarter, and they lost by 1 to the number 1 team in the country. So that was disappointing for, I'm sure, both teams that were watching that. Obviously, all the fans that were hopeful for a massive upset, but Georgia did get knocked away from the number 1 spot at long last, and we have a new number 1, Arch Manning-led Texas Longhorns. Chris, were you able to pay attention to that one?
I gotta tell you, I mean, Ewers gets hurt with the oblique, and now everybody immediately was just like, Arch Manning is the god. Arch Manning is the man. I mean, that was an impressive run, but yeah, I think they deserve to be number 1. They look very deep, very impressive.
Yeah.
The last time I remember Texas having a QB go down in a pivotal spot was way back in like 2010, their championship against Alabama. Was that Saban's first for Bama, probably? But Colt McCoy went down, Garrett Gilbert came in, and Texas was never the same for the next 15 years. But I guess they're new and improved, and they have the 5-star heir apparent and Arch Manning just dominating on the ground and through the air.
Yeah, I think Texas is officially back. I know we like to joke about Sam Ehlinger, 6 years ago, whenever that was, but they are the best team in the country right now. I don't even think it's necessarily probably Georgia's the next closest, but they're by far the best team right now. There's really no question marks on all sides of the ball for them. One game that I enjoyed the most to watch was the LSU South Carolina game. That was game day. What a heartbreaker for South Carolina. They came out buzzing, up 17-0, and then LSU fought back later in the game. Got a little lucky with some calls. That game could have gone either way. It was a classic SEC Saturday noon game. It was a lot of fun, a lot of scoring to watch, especially in the second half. So,
yeah,
I
that
was
scoring went
impressed with
crazy.
South Carolina. Yeah, yeah.
That scoring one, it was 7-0. I had the under, so that didn't work out. But 7-0 after the first, and then like you said, the scoring was insane.
Yeah, it was. I was very impressed with South Carolina. I didn't really watch
Mm-hmm.
as much of that game against Kentucky the week before, but they look like a strong team, especially that front seven on the defensive side of the ball. So um, that was the one that I enjoyed the most. Anything else on your end, Maku?
No, I think it was a prototypical, like, if you want to show off college football to someone who, like, doesn't really care for college football or doesn't really understand what's going on, that's a very good game to put on.
That's a great point.
I had very little rooting interest whatsoever. I'm not generally a fan of either team. I was probably cheering for South Carolina because they're more the underdog in the situation and, kind of got off to the hot start, but kind of a good showing for LSU. They had a lot of back and forth turnovers, fumbles, pickses. I was going to say pick sixes. I think it was just interceptions. But the QBs look great on one turn and bad on another drive. So it's a very, very just chaotic game. And I think that's, kind of like we said, that's what makes college football special. So credit to LSU and kind of, calming things down after a pretty up and down start to the season. And, that's just a battle to come back and win that one.
And another game that I wanted to call it, and I realized we didn't highlight our shirts yet, but
Fit check.
K-State put the whooping on Arizona on, what was that, Thursday night or Friday night? I think it was Friday night. I did not expect that to be that score, but boy, the K-State quarterback, what's his name?
Avery Johnson.
He is a stud. I love his game. He's so smooth. Just really fun to watch. And then McMillan and Fafita on the other side of the ball. They can move the ball, but that's really their offense at the moment. So they sort of ran into that. So that was a fun game. And then Florida State might not win a game this year.
They're broke.
They're struggling. I have some Florida State coworkers, and they had a Florida State logo as their desktop, and it was there after week 1. It was there after week 2. It was not there today. They're officially done.
That's the true mark of diehard fanhood, though. Is you know what? I need to change my work computer background because this ain't working.
The amount of times I've done that for Penn State after an Ohio State loss, I'm just I feel it.
You just can't look at
what shirt you got on?
I got the U, baby. I dug this one up from surprisingly still fits. I love it.
Chippewas, yeah.
My shirt squad is a juggernaut this year. Top 10 right now.
Them and Tennessee look like assassins.
I'm very worried about both of them, yeah.
Tennessee, Heupel with a scary quote at the end. And by the way, luckily they backed it off. It was 65-0 at half with that game. They were kicking onside kicks up 30-0 in the first quarter. I mean, Heupel at the end, talking about how they prepare their players and sort of, he sounds like an assassin. The opponent is nameless, faceless. So they're out to kill whoever they play. But they backed it off in the second half, 71-0 against Kent State. Kent State they're going through a gauntlet right now. Poor team. But yeah, them and Miami, I think, obviously I don't think they're quite yet proven themselves to be in the top tier with Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas, but they may be coming.
They haven't played anybody because we know Florida's an absolute joke right now, and they just destroyed Ball State. But I mean, hey, pretty sure Cam Ward's like the far and away Heisman favorite right now. But they both Tennessee and Miami pitch shutouts, both scored 60 plus. But the biggest demolishing of the weekend must have been Ole Miss winning 40-6 versus Wake Forest, because before they even left town, Wake Forest cashed out of their next year's game. So they basically
Lane Kiffin wasn't happy. That
they
broke
got like a win and a half.
Rule.
Yeah, he said that's just an unwritten rule that you don't do, and I don't know. That's like that's a fun Power 5 like matchup, and definitely knocked Wake Forest's little fan points there a little bit.
100%. I definitely agree with that. It is like, the structuring and the logistics of it all is super difficult, but also like if you beat a team so bad and you don't allow them to breathe, they still scored 6 points. So I guess they did something right once. But I mean, for them to just like go down to the bursar's office and be like, "Can we have some?
Give me $4 million.
No, we're going to give
can't
you
go
$1 million
there.
so that we don't have to come back here next year."
And those payouts. I think Florida State paid 1.2 to Memphis, which seems high. Like those are for a a very strong group of 5 team. That seems high, and they just they got a loss with it too.
I wonder how much these teams pay these FCS teams nowadays, because you remember Michigan paid Ohio State paid App State in what 09
Yeah.
7, whatever it was. They paid them $1 million, and that was sort of like the saying, like, thanks for the $1 million and the win. I feel like nowadays they should pay these FCS teams a lot more to come to them. Hashtag inflation, but who knows?
I think I saw somebody tweet when Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame that like the payout or the pay that Northern Illinois got to go to Notre Dame and beat them was like double the coach's salary. I think the coach should just get the money. Like if you pull off that upset, be like, 100%. All right, here you go.
Did you see the coach of NIU? He's awesome, but
yes.
at the end where they shook hands, he was like, "Hey, hit me up, or I can hit you up to basically chat about what we prepped and what we saw as weaknesses that we took advantage." And him and Marcus Freeman have talked like 3 times since then, as far as just like helping him prep. And I don't know if that's just like a good sportsman move, or if he's just trying to gun for like Notre Dame offensive coordinator, and that's how he's gonna get it.
That was a gutsy move right after the game. Hey, nice win. You know how we're better than you now? Like, you want some tips? That kind of thing? That's gutsy.
That's beautiful sportsmanship, but can you imagine if like all hell breaks loose and somehow they match each up in the playoff? And it's like,
possible.
Oh, well, now that you told us what we're gonna do, I guess we can fix it.
That's very possible if they're the best non-power 5, and then Notre Dame could just be the 5 seed or whatever. So yeah,
it's possible.
Last thing I wanted to mention. Colorado State, that did not really live up to the hype, in my opinion. Colorado State, I think they're just bad. They have a lot of issues. Colorado took care of them rather handily. Bounced back after the Nebraska game, which was their last game of note. But the biggest thing that I saw on social media, and Sam, I know at one point in time you were a Colorado fan.
Don't throw Sam on the bus. We were all rooting on Colorado at some point. About this time a year ago, we were all riding the bandwagon.
Well, I think everyone's off the bandwagon now.
Sure,
in 1918, Colorado fans poisoned the mascot of Colorado State, and it was Peanut the Bulldog. They poisoned a dog.
Colorado State's mascot wasn't a ram?
No.
He was a dog named Peanut?
Peanut. He was a bulldog.
Did they poison and kill him, or just like make him sick?
I took it as
he's 100 years ago. Research historical rivalry murders. Please go all the way.
I didn't realize what I stepped into. I apologize, but still,
that is messed up.
Who are you going around killing people, killing dogs?
Honestly, it's 0% acceptable in any regard, but if you were to poison a ram, I think you get a little bit more street cred than if you poison a puppy. That's just mean and evil.
That's true. Well, on that positive note, we have one mailbag, don't we? And then we have a game from Chris. What do we got, Maku, on mailbag?
We got Troy from Arizona reaching out. He must be a family friend of someone, long-lost cousin, because never heard the name. But shout out, Troy.
Nice.
After 3 weeks of college football so far this season, who could still qualify as a dark horse Heisman candidate? Which I thought is a very good point, because you got your clear-cut favorites. You got like Ewers, if he bounces back pretty soon. Cam Ward, who I mentioned, obviously, looking great. But who else is jumping out at you guys?
Yeah, I have a couple names here. One thing I'm looking at sort of the odds to win the Heisman after week 3. Fun fact, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning have the same odds to win the Heisman, which is interesting. But I think my dark horse is Avery Johnson. I mentioned him earlier in the episode. I think his chances will rise as long as K-State continues to win. If he can bring them to the playoff and bring them to at least Final Four, whatever it is, Big 12 championship at least. He could be in the Heisman conversation. He puts up numbers on the ground, in the air, and he's right now plus 4,000. Same odds as Drew Aller. So I think that's something there to show how much of a dark horse that is. So
Yeah.
I like Avery Johnson. Love his game.
Chris, what do you got?
Well, I'll give two names, mainly because I don't want the Tennessee quarterback to not be named. He's fourth on the odds, so that I don't know if that categorizes him as a dark horse. But Nico Iamaleava, plus 850. With how they're steamrolling everyone, they have some opportunities. They play Alabama, they play Georgia. They're obviously going through the SEC. If they have a great year and really take a hold, if they keep this run up, he's going to be up there. The other one that I really like, Ashton Genty. From Boise, he had 6 touchdowns in that first week. They almost beat Oregon, so unfortunately they already have a loss in their pocket. Obviously not a bad loss by any means, but if they keep rattling off wins, make it into the playoff as the best group of 5, and he keeps stuffing the stat sheet like that, he's going to be in the conversation. I think he will definitely make the trip to New York.
There you go. I love Genty. He's awesome. My pick is I'm curious of the odds, Sam, if you still haven't pulled up because I haven't checked it out. But obviously Cam Ward, Ewers, even Iamaleava was probably getting into the conversation. You get the classic guys like Milroe and Carson Beck, but after that performance, no thank you. I go to at the start of the season, before even they played a game, was Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, but he's kind of ascended to much more relevance for Heisman. So the absolute dark horse, which is probably, hopefully a surprising name for everybody, Alan Bowman over at Oklahoma State.
What?
He just threw for like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's going to put up gaudy stats all year long. He's almost 30 years old.
Didn't he just celebrate his 33rd birthday too?
I was going to say he's very old. Very old. He's basically the next Brandon
Weeden.
Words,
okay? Let's not use those words. We're that old.
He's not on the list, so that's how low it is.
That is a dark horse.
The lowest one on the list is Brady Cook at 6,500, so he's at least 6,500.
That horse is in the dark.
Brady Cook passed through my mind, but Bowman's putting up big numbers, and Oklahoma State's kind of rolling right now, right outside the top 10.
Love it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good question.
All right. Next one we got is a game from Chris, and then we'll hop into week 4. We'll wrap it up from there, but what do we got?
All right, so trying to keep it a little fresh, something we haven't really done. We're going to go off a mascot quiz, so a little bit less X's and O's. What we're going to do, we're going to put a minute on the clock, all right? And it's going to be rapid fire, so...
Are these mascots all alive, or have they been killed by their rivals?
No, Peanut the Bulldog, that is a Ram at Colorado State. It's not going to be that hard, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to list off a mascot. We're going to start off easy. So I'm going to say there are 5 FBS Tigers. Name the colleges. You're going to go through them, and then I've got 4 of another kind, 3 of the, and we're going to see how many we can get in a minute.
Are we going back and forth, or are we just yelling out names?
Yell?
Yeah, I think just best effort. Let's both go for it.
So in a minute, we're trying to get 5 Tigers of the whole game.
So that's just one. You guys are most likely going to get it after that. Okay. So now we're going to go 4 of another kind.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all right. And however much we can get in a minute, let's do it.
Alrighty.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we're going to start the clock, and we're starting with 5 Tigers in 3, 2, 1.
Auburn, Clemson, LSU, right off the bat. That's 3.
Memphis.
Is Memphis?
Yep, Memphis. Yeah, one more.
Sure are. Good job. This is where it gets interesting. Not Florida International. They're the Panthers.
Did you do Mizzou?
No, that's the 5th.
Let's go.
Great job.
Right. 2 Falcons.
Bowling
Green. And who?
I said Bowling Green too.
Oh, okay.
Air Force.
Air Force. Yep.
All right, there we go. 3 Knights.
Does Army count?
Yes. Yes. All right, Army.
UCF Golden.
Yes. And you say
There's
Rutgers.
one more.
Oh. Whoops. Rutgers.
Rutgers.
Oh, there we go. I like how they're all colored knights.
2 bulls
Knights with a color in front of them.
You got 5 seconds. 2 bulls.
What is it? USF
Bulls,
and
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yes, there we go. All right, time. Whoo!
Great job.
I would say, so we got the Tigers all the way through. We got the Falcons. We got the Knights and the Bulls.
It'd be great at the end you were just like, and one team called the Fighting Irish?
So, it's one of those things, keeping it fresh a little bit.
That was very
it.
good.
Appreciate it. Good job, boys.
See, I'm better at nicknames versus mascots. I could not name the, Tuffy the Wolf. That's a super common one, but, those unique names, would not... Yeah, no, I would not be good at that.
I thought you were going to say, Sam's just like, Rams? I'm not familiar with that term. They're Peanut the Bulldogs.
Ramses? Well, cool.
That was good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We'll do another one next week. Maybe have a guest on the pod as well. Our guests are 1-0, so if you want to come on, let us know, and your team will win.
Come on down, Troy.
Yeah, exactly. So, week 4. Looking ahead, there's some good games. Much better slate than what there was last week. There's Clemson, NC State. I'm super excited about the Tennessee Oklahoma game. USC Michigan. There's a lot of good games coming up. Where do we want to start, Chris? Which game do we want to go with first?
All right, let's start USC Michigan. All right, I think first of all, USC, that's a team that I liked in the early going. They're performing very well. Favored, 5.5 at Michigan. If this wasn't at Michigan, I think I would be all in on that spread with USC. I think Michigan can keep it close just because they have that run game, and I think it's going to be rather low scoring anyway. So I'm in on the under, if anything, here. Michigan, I think that if they perform very poorly here like they did against Texas, obviously I don't see them getting blown out that much, but if this is a 2 or 3 touchdown loss, they're in big trouble. These are 2 big games at home where they did not perform well, if that turns out to be the case. So, I think the thing I'm most confident about is the under here, but I'm definitely going to be curious to see how this one goes, particularly, honestly, more on the Michigan side to see how much fight and how much, their future may hold.
I agree with pretty much all that. I think Michigan getting the points at home it's always tough to turn down. We saw, again, USC is not Texas. Texas is leagues better than USC is, I believe, and I think they have it's a much improved defense, but it's still one that Michigan can probably move the ball against. I'm sure they've made some edits to the game script and thrown in some new wrinkles and some new plays. I think they're going with Alex Orji now to take over at starting QB. So hopefully he gives a little spark for them. So I don't know if I'm fully confident enough to take the points, but I do love that under as well. I think Miller Moss is going to get a little rattled in the obviously very tough environment there. And, I don't see him, carving up the Michigan defense quite to the tune that Texas did. So I think the under is the smart play there.
Completely agreed. Might be a throwback to last year, a little pod action.
Pod.
Well, there you go.
Maybe buy it up to 50 or 49, that just little safety net there. Maybe some garbage points there at the end. But, yeah, Michigan's not moving the ball. I was impressed with USC's defense against LSU in week 1 or week 2, whenever that was. So definitely much improved on that side of the ball as well. So I like under, let's say 49, whatever the number is. So should be a fun game, though. First sort of glimpse of what the new Big Ten is going to look like. This is a conference game now. So curious to see how that vibe is, especially on big kickoff or whatever this is going to be.
I'm just hoping we finally get past all of these fake Big 12 games that don't count for Big 12. That's happened at least a couple times now. Arizona State or Arizona, Kansas State was one of them. That's messing
Yeah.
with me. But this is a legit conference game.
I was going to say, speaking of fake Big 12, 12
Colorado.
Utah playing. Oh, well, also that too. But number 12 Utah is going to Oklahoma State. I'm sure that was also scheduled well in advance, right?
Yeah, and great segue. We got that one coming up next week or this coming week. Informally known as the Unk Bowl. This is fun fact. I will not look too.
Please go on.
We'll not look too analytical in this game, but Cam Rising and who's your OK State quarterback, Maku?
Alan Bowman.
Alan Bowman. It is called the Unk Bowl because the combined age of these two quarterbacks is 49. And just for comparison, this past Sunday's Colts-Bears game, the combined age was 40 of those two quarterbacks, 44. So we got two seventh-year quarterbacks there in a college football game playing each other. Should be a fun one, classic Midwest, out West game, so it should be fun.
I think Cam Rising is going to find a way to just stay another 2 years. Like, this guy doesn't want to leave.
I mean, he's going to fight off polio at this point. I mean, he's just going to just come back from any injury possible and just kill it. I love how he plays. He just can't stay healthy.
Right.
That's true. He's made of glass, and I think he had threats of tetanus last week because he ruptured or split open his hand or something.
Get your shots, man.
I've heard he's powering through it, and he's going to be the first person to play with active tetanus since probably like the 40s. So that'll be a heck of a game, though. Surprising top 15 matchup. I do love the points. I think it's only around 50 or 51. So I don't think either defense is good enough to stop both, very much above average offenses. And obviously, I just sung Alan Bowman's praises, so I can't really take the under on him.
I'm probably going to be staying away. I like what you guys are saying, but
QB's too old.
Yes, yeah, exactly. They're going to get tired in the fourth quarter.
Maybe a bet will be that one quarterback doesn't finish the game.
Oh my god!
Not probably minus odds rising in any game.
Yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, this game's a coin flip, at least from who's going to win. Oklahoma State, they are a roller coaster. I watched that game against Arkansas. That could have gone either way. They honestly, that was a tough battle for them, too. So, I like the points. Maybe like what we did for under 50 for the Michigan game. Maybe a little over 50 action for this one.
There you go.
Another sort of, I was going to say primetime game, but I think it's at noon. ACC matchup, Clemson versus NC State. Would have been a ranked game. NC State's sputtering a little bit. 19.5 favorite on the Clemson side. This was 17, I think, yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon, so it's moving even farther towards Clemson. 48.5. I saw a line this morning that NC State's first half total is 6, and I feel like I kind of like just a random touchdown in the first half. I feel like at home they could easily score a touchdown in the first half, but new quarterback coming in, 6'6", huge scrambler quarterback, should be hopefully give some new life into that offense, but they have been tough to watch this past couple weeks. Must be something with the state of North Carolina with the Carolina Panthers. But what are your thoughts initially on this one, Chris?
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the Panthers because, looking at some of the games for the NFL slate coming, this coming weekend, I was seeing a trend online about, teams that lose their first two games they have a larger percentage or a larger chance of covering in that third game. The Panthers look generationally bad. NC State, like you said, has disappointed. So as much as I want to root for the Wolfpack, I think this is going to be one of those you need to prove it to me because they need to go into Memorial Stadium at Clemson and bring it. And, with them losing, I think, at some point in the third quarter, I believe, against Louisiana Tech, obviously Tennessee's a buzzsaw. the showing could have been a little better, but I'm trying not to hold that against them too much. But they haven't looked good, and Western Carolina, so I just can't, I cannot back them at this point, but it'll be interesting to see because Clemson, after the embarrassment against Georgia, I think they're going to really try to, set a foothold in the ACC, and I think the market's kind of seeing that too. Seeing this could be a 3-touchdown type game. I hope it stays closer, but I'm probably just going to stay away from this.
Yeah, I think I've made all my predictions on this game before I had any idea that Grayson McCall got called out of last game or injured out of last game and could not finish. And it sounds like he's, as Sam said, he's definitely not coming back for this one. So very tough spot to put is he a freshman or sophomore? Sophomore, kid.
I believe. It's his last name's Bailey, CJ Bailey, I think.
CJ Bailey, I just looked him up.
Yeah.
So super tough to get your first starting environment at Clemson, who's kind of on a little bit of an uptick as well after their own beatdown first week of the season versus Georgia. But I think, Sam, I love your bet with the over 6 in the first half. I think you have to look into it, even if it's like Cade Klubnik throwing a dumb pick 6.
Right,
very possible. So don't put it all on the offense.
Oh, that was the team total in the first half.
Yeah,
6.
Exactly. I like that a lot. I also am kind of leaning, or I was leaning towards the over, but again, that was before I knew that that McCall was going to be out for this game. So nowadays, I'll probably just follow where the line's going and take Clemson minus the points because it started at 4 points earlier. It's now up to minus 20.
Yeah. CJ Bailey. I know a lot of the fans are excited about him. I don't know if they're more excited for him or more excited that McCall's not playing, but 6'6", 210 freshman. I think he's a redshirt freshman technically, but if there was a lean, I would kind of lean over. I feel like he just would kind of try and make plays, make some mistakes, turnovers kind of lead to overs, but I'm going to ride with that first half team total. Why not? I think they might want to fight around a little bit, at least that first half.
Pod. What was the other one we talked about earlier? The one we all
Tennessee,
agreed on?
Oklahoma. Last big one that we wanted to touch base on. Tennessee.
That was USC Michigan under, Mike. That was the pod. Yeah.
Far. Yeah.
Sorry, Sam.
Yep. No. 7.5 point favorite Tennessee at Oklahoma. 57.5 over. I believe this should be game day, right? I would assume it's college game day. Yeah. So, also Maku, LOL, that I was trying to script Tennessee last week to barely cover against Kent State, and they could have beaten them by 150 because of this sandwich game, maybe a little look ahead. Mm-hmm. They were not looking ahead whatsoever. What's the quote again by Heupel, Chris?
The opponent is nameless, faceless.
And they literally just tackled them and ripped their faces off. So
that'd be so much cooler, though, if they said that after this game versus Oklahoma. They said it after they beat the doors off of Kent State. Like, don't act like there's some juggernaut you had to go in and upset on the road.
And by the way, we didn't touch on this other MAC school, Toledo, whooping Mississippi State. Yeah. I think the MAC is going to be – MACtion is going to be wild later on this fall into the winter.
It already is. We had the Bowling Green almost upset last week, which was very much to our chagrin.
And then obviously Northern Illinois, Toledo. I mean – it'll be
everybody's got some panache to them except for Kent State.
Also, Kent State's going to go 0-12. So
yes. Does MACtion start right when conference play starts, or does it wait a couple weeks?
I think it
starts till November.
Yeah.
The Tuesday night games.
That first Tuesday night, you can start seeing the breath, some snow coming down. That is football. That is the best.
There's 25 fans in the stands.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, I'm ready for that. But back to higher quality football. Tennessee,
November
Oklahoma.
6th.
November 6th.
Oh wait, sorry. I blurted that in. Yeah.
Sounds like the true battleground for America.
I was gonna say, well, I need to know MACtion, and especially in my house, I need to be prepared for that.
Exactly.
Never mind. That's less important.
Back to the big ones.
Maku, what do you like?
Tennessee, Oklahoma. We're talking.
Aye.
This game is just screaming neon lights of over city right here. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't, I saw 57.5 and that didn't really concern me. That just seems so, and I'm probably the idiot. It'll probably be a 24-20 kind of game, but I just see both two very high-powered offenses. I see Tennessee not slowing down at all. Playing another faceless team, obviously. So I think they're going to put up 42, and so then we just need 17 or even 15 from Tennessee. So, or no, not from Oklahoma, obviously, and they can do that against Tennessee. They're not quite that good on defense to pitch another shutout. So I say the over is the lock of the century, but again, I'm probably very off on that.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, I have the same thinking. I don't know. I watched some of that Oklahoma Tulane game last week, and I know Tulane's a very solid group of 5 team, but Oklahoma didn't overly impress me. I honestly am leaning Tennessee with the points here too. I mean, Tennessee, just how they have been so workmanlike. Oklahoma, they have a decent crowd. I think a lot was made of all the fans leaving last week. I think the fans will come. It's definitely a good environment there, especially on game day. Everybody will be ready to go. But I just really like this Tennessee team this year. So I think there's going to be points scored. Tennessee will work to get to 57 on their own. So, I'm with you on the over, and I kind of like Tennessee as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at Oklahoma's first 3 games of the year. They beat Temple 51-3 at home. Houston's supposed to be really, really weak this year. They beat them 16-12 at home, and then 34-19 last week against Tulane. I am looking at what Tennessee's team total is, because I wrote on Tennessee's team total against NC State. I feel like, all right, so like a 110 or like a 120 minus 125 is 31.5 points.
Of course, they put it right at that number.
I feel, why don't we do like a little parlay action of over 27.5 points for Tennessee, and then Oklahoma, we're going to go under 28.5. That is plus 115.
That means Tennessee wins.
So Tennessee to score over 28, and then Oklahoma to score less than 28. We're going to rock with that. I feel like that makes perfect sense. I feel like Tennessee won't let up 4 touchdowns. I could be wrong, but
I love that team total there.
Sort of my vibe, yeah.
It's just a very crafty way of taking Tennessee money line.
I was going to say, what is that?
No, their money line is minus 275. So
100%, yeah. It's I'm just going to start doing that with every bet I ever make.
I was going to say, I didn't know that was allowed.
Hey, try it out, see what happens.
Yeah. We may have just hacked something.
We figured out gambling. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sure no
Vegas
one has
is
thought
knocking
of that.
at my door.
You're welcome, Troy.
Yeah. Write that down.
I thought very quick, I don't know if this was on the agenda, Sammy, but little fun Friday Night Lights action coming up. Also a ranked matchup, and who would have predicted this from them the past 10 years? 24 Illinois playing at number 22 Nebraska. Nebraska's playing hot. They have a couple premier wins already. 8.5 point favorites over Illinois. And Illinois, I'm kind of taking I think I'll take the points. They're a
What's the total on that?
43.5. I also like the over. It's just, it seems so simple to me looking at it right now.
I like the under there, but it's a little low for me to go with no scoring on the 43. If it was like 47, yes, but I feel like that's just like a slog of a game. But yeah, that's like a sort of like a grudge match. I'm excited for that game. It'll be fun. What is that, Friday, you said?
It's Friday night, and I'd be very curious to find the last time these two teams matched up as ranked opponents. It must be like the
Probably
90s or early 2000s, if ever, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure like back in the 40s they were playing every week as like 1 versus 2, but
I'm on the Nebraska side here, actually. I've already taken Nebraska minus 8.5. I think they're going to show up to play.
I love it. And you're still very bitter about Illinois taking down your Kansas Jayhawks.
Very, very.
There you go.
But that was their Super Bowl. They sold out first time since 2016.
Well, speaking of Kansas, I think they're just skipping this season. Like, they're building their new stadium. They're playing home games 45 minutes away from their campus.
This is news to me. I had no idea this was happening.
Yeah, they lost to UNLV last week.
I saw that. I definitely saw that.
They were playing in St. Louis, and that's just where their home games are now.
They were playing at the
soccer team, right?
The soccer stadium,
Yeah,
in Kansas City.
Oh, you can't put American football on soccer football
on the pitch.
stadium.
On the pitch,
you can't move it to the pitch. That's not fair.
It is 45 minutes away. I did look at that from Lawrence, but still, to have your students drive 45 minutes, that's asking a lot.
I wish I knew this at any time before betting Kansas. Pretty much every game they've won or lost this season.
I think Kansas has a shot. Everyone's sleeping on them right now. This is going to be a bounce back spot. You thought that with South Carolina, how they whooped Kentucky. Look what Kentucky did this year. College football is this past week.
Are you taking Kansas now to go into West Virginia? Have you moved to that one?
Yes. So I tried to lean into that one real quick.
I'll tail you on that one. That's fair. I like the buy low.
Stomps.
Yeah,
and if I may, are these all the big games we're talking about? Or is there
anything else? We're just on little quick picks, and maybe if we want to do a little upset pick, we could have like a replica of Super Dogs or something.
I was gonna say, if I may quickly pat myself on the back.
Yeah, hell of a Georgia State pick, McCoo.
Perfect call last week. I felt like a genius.
I gotta do the round of applause.
Yes, this is what I did it for.
Here we go. Live.
Hey, there it is. In-house savant here.
I was gonna say I felt like it. That's some pop right there.
Yeah, okay. It's louder than the Kansas crowd. Jeez.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I was very proud of that pick. I did not fully expect them to come out and actually win the game, and it was quite the battle. But just, at the right spot. You got to pick the spots of when the team's going to, kind of come back down to earth, and that was the time for Vandy. Lost to Georgia State, but it was also at Georgia State. And then also I followed the Clemson script from the week before, and said Notre Dame has to bounce back big versus Purdue, and they won by about 100. So I think 66-7. So that was so you just get. I think that's the move. We don't look at the teams necessarily or the matchups. We got to look at like who's been going through it a little bit and who pops out the other side.
That might have been the easiest -10 we've ever thought of. That was crazy.
Stunned it was that low.
Yeah. So. Yeah, well done. Let's replicate it again. But any other quick picks you like, McCoo?
Yeah, very quickly one that just jumped out to me. I was about to go on a whole diatribe about how much I love Georgia Tech +10, similar to last week, obviously the 10-point spreads. But Louisville is 2-0.
What? Wait, what? I'm sorry, what was that?
Louisville, sorry. Apologies.
Louisville.
Apologies to the state of Kentucky. It's Louisville -10 versus Georgia Tech. I would expect with Georgia Tech playing, the week 0 game, kind of getting on the national radar, team or people, even, kind of casual fans have at least seen a couple plays and sees Haynes King is, kind of playing pretty well. And Louisville's played 2 nobodies so far. Georgia Tech's already, I think, 3-1, so you'd expect Georgia Tech to be a lot closer, but this is the line that just jumps out to me as like something's up here. So I'm just going to pay attention to my gut and take Louisville -10.
A couple others, one of those gut feels. Arizona State, Texas Tech. What those two teams? What do you think? Just an over.
My brain immediately goes to over 75.
That's just and it's 60.5.
Oh, okay.
So I'm taking the over there. I also like Bowling Green and Texas A&M 52.5, and then Georgia Southern. Green's
QB shows up like he did against us a couple weeks ago.
That's what I'm saying.
I may take money line.
And then last over, Georgia Southern Ole Miss 65.5.
Ooh.
We saw Georgia Southern really put up some points with Boise State, and then obviously Ole Miss can light up the scoreboard. Boom.
I love that a lot. Sammy, I'll flip it back to you. We got our boys, Penn State, minus 49 versus what we've already discussed is the worst team in the country, Kent State. What do you think?
I see it a 55-6 game. I think we come
49.
out. Oh, is it?
You're a sharp.
No, I think we cover. I do. At least first half cover. I don't know what the spread is, but I've been impressed with our offense all 3 weeks. 2 weeks, 3 weeks so far this year. Defense was kind of shockingly bad against Bowling Green. I think that was very similar to NIU versus Notre Dame, where they obviously found something to. That tight end went off against us. They obviously found a weakness in our defense. I mean, it took Tom Allen way too long to pressure the quarterback. That's what I was saying the entire time. That
tight end's gonna be drafted, by the way. He's so good.
He's a stud. But yeah, that's what I loved about Manny Diaz's defense. Our defense is built for man close pressing defense with blitzers, and it's almost like we've completely switched to rush 4 or 5 and play zone, and that's not going to win in the Big Ten, especially against these non-conference teams too. So, not in love with the scheme so far, but I think overall, hopefully, we figure something out. I mean, against Kent State, I'm hoping that it's sort of a run through. Hopefully, we can figure out what we're doing.
I wish I was in a state because my gambling is limited to just spreads and totals. I can't do player props in college for whatever weird reason.
That's criminal.
But I would love to take a rushing touchdown by pretty much everybody on Penn State's roster. I don't think we're going to sling it around the field as much. I think we're just going to run it down the throat. Every running back's going to have like 100 yards. Katron and Singleton are both going to go off.
We have another nameless, faceless team. The same nameless, faceless team.
We just need the faceless flashes.
They already don't have a face. We're just taking their name now.
Honestly, I'm curious. Like, I'm sure Kent State's team total is probably like 6, like that first half one you were talking about earlier, Sammy. So
I can look. Let's see.
I could see them getting a garbage time, or like the team, or we just feel bad for them at the end and let them.
We are minus 100,000 on the money line.
So if we want to start a donation then and put that all, win $100.
Kent State under 3.5 is minus 190.
Okay, that's very. I think I'd probably take that, or I'd probably take the over. I mean,
well, 2.5 is like even money across both. So, do we think they can get a field goal? Is the question.
I sure do. I'm just saying, the Bowling Green kind of printed out the game plan. You can move the ball down to like the 25.
Yep.
Kick it in, we're good.
So, do you have any upset picks before we wrap it up?
I mean, again, I was all very excited to take Georgia Tech because they're getting 10 points.
Oh, yeah.
But as I said, that's a very disgusting line. It smells from here to Louisville, and something's off there. So I can't, in good faith, tell people to go off and take that one. I don't know. Let me do a little quick scan. Chris, you got any?
One number. So I have a couple thoughts. I was looking at Stanford and Syracuse potentially. As Stanford, they're +9. I don't know if I like that enough, but that's something that I was thinking about for a little money line sprinkle, +260. Another one, Wyoming. Wyoming has burned me so far this year. 0-3 with a loss against Idaho. Idaho is number 3. Idaho's burning me left and right. Or first Oregon, now Wyoming. But they play North Texas. North Texas is a volatile team. You mentioned, Sam, turnovers lead to higher totals. That leads to volatility and sort of, that variance that can pull an upset. They're +8.5. You look around at a lot of these sites, Wyoming is still very highly rated in as far as the Mountain West goes from a power rating perspective. They're 7 or 8 point advantage on a lot of those power ratings. It's at North Texas, but I think that, if they want to have any kind of season, Wyoming needs to show up. Those are the two that really stood out to me. Otherwise, a lot of one more. Sorry, I was going to say about the totals. Oregon State. This is not an upset, but I really like them -4.5 against Purdue. I think bounce back from the Oregon game. Purdue keeps you. I see, Mike, you're shaking your head there.
It's just the silliest matchup ever to call a conference game. I'm sorry. Or wait, no, I'm the one wrong. Oregon State's still wrapping the pack.
I was going to say
I heard Oregon. I heard Oregon and Purdue, and I got excited for a second. But still, it's a wild matchup regardless.
I think they're going to be able to move the ball against Purdue. Purdue's really struggling, unfortunately. So I like them at home.
Well, my upset pick of the week, and I think a certain someone on this podcast will love the pick, is 16.5-point underdogs, South Florida over Miami.
Ooh.
Sorry, Maku, for the
Go
shirt.
Bulls.
I know Chris loves the Bulls. I think it's so weird to say it because it's South Florida, but I think this is their first challenge, Miami.
I thought you were going to say they played Alabama already. I thought you were talking
No. Miami has played Florida. We know how Florida's doing, 41-17. Ball State 62-0. Florida A&M 56-9. So 2 of their games they've stayed in the state of Florida, but I think the way USF is playing, they played well against Alabama. I think they can at least keep it within 17, but maybe like a first half. I think they could lead the first half. I'm gonna ride that one.
I was gonna say it's at USF, so that's kind of a win right there.
Yeah,
and then they very much should have covered that at Bama. So I see the point. I see them covering. I do not necessarily see them winning outright, but it is a good pick. I landed on mine as well. Where did it go? Lost it. It's Duke playing at Middle Tennessee. I
thought about this one.
Duke playing at Middle Tennessee.
Interesting.
Give me the Blue Raiders because they got the home game. Duke has not looked very impressive.
And they're your team. They're your team.
My team in my college football dynasty, and they upset me weekly. But I'm gonna back the boys for this one here. I think they've been playing okay, and Duke has just not impressed any step of the way. They're 3-0. I still cheer on Manny Diaz because he's the man and led us to an awesome defense the last few years.
Diaz.
But I don't think they really have an offensive identity. I think they kind of scrap and claw a lot, and they had to go to overtime to beat Northwestern, and they barely got by UConn, who we all know is a laughable college football program. So
and plus Murfreesboro, they're going to be ready.
Exactly, they're gonna drop this one on the road in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee.
I think this one's a perfect little tease action. It's 52 is way too high for a total for a Duke game, in my opinion.
Big time.
And then 14.5 as that spread. If get that to like 18.5 and under 55, I feel like that's a lock. So
that's genius. I've never heard something better.
That is very interesting that they play at Middle Tennessee because my team in our shared dynasty, Louisiana Tech, NC State broke their contract with them to go to Ruston, Louisiana next year because the ACC commissioner says the ACC should not play road games against group of 5 teams anymore. But Duke, I guess, apparently wants to be honorable, and they just want to hold that and go to Murfreesboro.
Yeah,
now it's going to bite them.
I have some beef about that. They had a home and home planned with App State. I feel like that would have been a great home and home with App State. Love that stadium, especially when the fall leaves start changing. It's peak football. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that move.
One fun fact, I know I'm bouncing around. I'm just trying to get my little tidbits in there. Going back to South Florida, did you know that they lead the entire country in plays per game? They are fast. 85.5 plays per game, the most of anybody. So they are a fire in offense. And this is the coach, if you'll recall in the offseason, when they asked about their non-conference schedule, Alabama and Miami, he says, now remember, they need to play us too. So they think they can hang in these games. And I believe it.
Brent Dilfer.
Who?
Isn't he their coach?
That's UAB.
Oh, UAB. Never mind.
Why is so funny? Just randomly yelled at old NFL quarterbacks.
That was funny.
They're both green. They're both down there. Who cares?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Brad Johnson.
All right.
Well, looking forward to a great week 4. We got a little upset picks. We'll post some more on the socials, but thanks again for a great episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all in week 5.
Yes, yeah.
Cool, boys.
Look
I love
forward to engaging with y'all on socials. Give us a follow.
It's stopping.
Great job.